My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my list of my 10 favorite superhero movies. Now, I'm going to be completely transparent. I was originally going to do a review for Alien Isolation today, but I can't seem to find that game anywhere. So I wanted to fill this time slot, and I figured, well, I'm a guy on YouTube who reviews movies, so I'm going to have to do the top 10 superhero movie list time and time again, so might as well do my first time now. Now keep in mind, I'm filming this on December 12th. That's right, I'm filming this 6 months ago. So, I haven't seen The Batman, I haven't seen Doctor Strange, I haven't seen SpiderMan No Way Home. So if those movies turn out to be amazing, well, I haven't seen them yet. I have not, so I can't put them on my list. And also keep in mind, this is my list. It is the correct list. It's objective. No other list matters but mine. So if you have an issue with it, sorry, but your list is just wrong. So let's begin with my 10th favorite superhero movie, and it's X-Men Days of Future Past. This movie is my favorite X-Men movie. I just think everything that the X-Men movies try to do, this movie does it the absolute best. You've got the story of Charles Xavier, who has fought for and believed that humans and mutants can live together in unity his entire life. It is the number one idea that has defined him as a character. And he's got someone from the future coming to him now, telling him that everything he fought for and believed in isn't going to happen, that they will fail. And this movie is just about, when do you give up hope in what you believe in? When? And I actually think that's such a powerful message. This movie is incredibly emotional in moments, and James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart are just fantastic here. Michael Fassbender gives one of his best performances ever. Like, he is incredible in this movie. More than ever, you understand his actions. You know, he's getting told that he was right. So he's just like, okay, there's no reason to hold back now. Let's start wiping out the humans now. And you understand it. He's still the villain, but there's layers to him, and I think he portrays it all so perfectly, and how so much of this movie depends on Mystique's choice and her as a character, and that she is as well defined as she is up until this point. I think this movie just does it all brilliantly. You also got Evan Peters, who is excellent as Quicksilver. He steals this entire movie within one scene. The last 30 minutes of this movie is some of the most intense, thrilling, and emotional stuff in any superhero movie. I just love this movie more and more every time I watch it. I just think it's absolutely brilliant. It's an amazing movie. I love it so very much. In 9th place is the 2002 SpiderMan movie. I love this movie. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this movie was a huge part of my childhood. Absolute huge part of it. I have lots of nostalgia for this movie. But rewatching it as an adult, it's still every bit as good as I remembered. This movie is maybe the best origin story for any superhero ever. Every character feels well defined, and every single member of the cast just brings each character to life so perfectly. Cliff Robertson and Rosemary Harris are easily the best Aunt May and Uncle Ben. They just bring so much humanity to their characters. Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man. I love him. He's fantastic in all these movies. And he just got that quirky, nerdy quality so down pat. I like Kirsten Dunst in this movie a lot. I think James Franco's really good. Willem Dafoe is like the perfect Green Goblin. I think he's a fantastic villain in this movie. And just telling the story of how Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man and why he decides to fight crime, and then him getting this challenge in Green Goblin that challenges why he should do this, and it just is the perfect origin story. It just understands this character so perfectly, and Sam Raimi adds lots of sincerity to it. This feels like an honest take on this character, and Sam Raimi just brings so much to it. I absolutely love this movie, and my goodness, the last half hour of this movie is absolute perfection. Of Green Goblin terrorizing Aunt May, like that scene terrified me as a kid. And then you've got the choice on the bridge, which just encapsulates everything that Spider-Man is about so perfectly. That scene is intense and thrilling. And then you got that fight in the forest, which is so brutal and just amazing. Misery, misery, misery. That's what you've chosen. I offer you friendship and you spat in my face. Just incredible stuff. I love this movie. It's fantastic. And in 8th place, we've got Captain America 2, The Winter Soldier. I loved this movie when I first saw it, and I love it each and every time I watch it more. I think this is one of the MCU's very best movies, because not only do you got the Russo brothers coming in and giving us some of the best action in the MCU, but it's also got some of the most emotion and just sincerity behind it all. I think all the stuff between Steve and Bucky is fantastic. Like, I never really cared much for Bucky in the first movie, but in the second movie, they found a way to make me care for him and what he meant to Steve. In that last fight, when Steve is just taking the beating from Bucky, saying, "Do what you gotta do because I'm with you till the end of the line." It's genuinely maybe the most emotional moment in the entire MCU, or at least one of them. And like I said, the action is top notch in this movie, but you also got this great political story that's kind of Operation Paperclip, but in the superhero universe. And I just found it to be engaging, riveting stuff, and just the whole idea of security versus privacy, which is a huge question that's been in politics for a very long time, and the way that this movie explores that, I just find this movie to be absolutely fantastic. I love it. I love it. It's just an amazing movie. In 7th place, we've got Batman Mask of the Phantasm. This movie is absolute perfection. My goodness. I loved this movie as a kid, but I rewatched it recently for the first time in a long time. And oh my goodness, like, I forgot just how good this movie is. Like, there's better Batman movies, but this might be the best Batman movie, if you know what I mean. Like, I think this is a movie that best understands Batman as a character. How Batman isn't something that he wanted to do. It's a burden that he's been stuck with. He's wanted to get out of it. He wished his parents didn't die and that he could have lived a life with them, but that's not what happened. So he felt like Batman was the only other alternative. And then he meets this woman and he falls in love. And he's just like, I don't want to do this Batman stuff anymore. And he's willing to leave it all behind, but she ends up leaving him with nothing else. So he feels like he has to. He feels obligated to. And you just see that struggle so perfectly in this movie. And it's genuinely emotional in moments. Like, the relationship between Andrea and Bruce is filled with so much depth and nuance. There's one moment where they go to the World of Tomorrow and they're just walking around this exhibit. And by the end of the movie, that exhibit is blown up in flames. They never got a chance to live a life together in the future. It's tragic. There's a tragic story here. Mark Hamill is my favorite Joker. He's always has been. He always will be. He just does this character so perfectly, and I love him as a Joker in this movie. One of the funniest moments in any movie is there's a scene where the Phantasm is beating up Joker, and he's trying to get something from behind him, and there's a thing of sausages and a knife, and he grabs this thing of sausage and beats him with it and her with it, and I thought that was hilarious. I just love this character. The Phantasm is a brand new, menacing villain that's just... I love the addition of that villain here. And then we got this incredible moment where Bruce Wayne is getting chased by the police into this construction site. And it's just an incredible sequence. This movie is just... It's perfect. It's got depth, it's got nuance, it's got emotion, it's thrilling, it's action-packed. It's just some of the best Batman stuff that's ever been made, ever. So I absolutely love this movie. In 6th place, we've got KickAss, and this movie kicks ass. I've always loved this movie, and I always will. It's a more realistic take on if someone decided to become a superhero, and I say realistic very loosely because the first bit of this movie is more realistic, but then it kind of turns into the superhero genre that it's been making fun of up until that point. But I feel like the transition from one type of movie into the other type is very smooth, and you do buy into it. I think this movie's got a terrific cast. Nicolas Cage is absolutely fantastic in this movie, and I love Chloe Grace Moretz as Hit Girl. She has never been as good as she was in this movie. Like, whole action sequences are just top notch. In this movie, what Matthew Vaughn brings to it is just some of the best filmmaking they could be. Like, that Kick-Ass unmasked sequence is brutal, it's emotional, and then it ends with some of the most visually stunning action that I've ever seen. I love that entire sequence, and then the end fight is just fantastic. I think this movie has a lot of emotion, a lot of sincerity to it, but it's still willing to go into those over-the-top cartoonish places, and I've always enjoyed this movie. I think it's just fantastic. Love it so very much. And in 5th place, we've got Infinity War. I love this movie a lot. I can feel Kevin Feige's vision for the MCU coming to life with this movie. It's just everything he dreamed of the MCU being is fully utilized in this movie. You just see it all. The way all these different characters come together, the different personalities, the action sequences, the stakes, the emotion, just everything is on full display, and it's absolutely marvelous. I didn't even mean to do that pun, but yes, this Marvel movie is marvelous. Thanos is a fantastic villain. Josh Brolin just does an incredible job as him, and I just love the way he's written. Like, yeah, he's this evil psychopath, but there's a certain honorable quality to him that I just love. Like that line where he beats Iron Man, and he's just like, "When I'm done, half of humanity will cease to exist. I hope they remember you." And it's just like, that is such a fantastic line. And he has so many lines like that. I loved seeing all these different personalities come together. There's so many. I thought this movie is really funny. You feel the stakes. Like, this movie is intense. Like, watching Thanos getting more and more powerful as this movie progresses, leading up to that ending. Like, there is so much at stake here, and you always feel the weight of it. This movie's also got a lot of emotion. Like, when Gamora dies, that's still a very emotional sequence. Despite how Endgame goes, the end of this movie still has a lot of emotional weight behind it. And especially with Tom Holland's performance in that one scene, you feel it. The action is just fantastic. Like, everything. Like, the fight on Titan is just top tier superhero action sequence. Like, just everyone's powers on full display. Doctor Strange's fight with Thanos, his fight with Iron Man. Thanos throws a freaking moon at them. It's all just fantastic stuff. I love this movie. I love it. This movie lived up and exceeded every single one of my expectations. It's fantastic. In 4th place, we've got Batman Returns. This is a movie that I absolutely love. I love it. I love Tim Burton as a director, and this is the most Tim Burton movie they might ever be. And I just love that about this movie. Like, Penguin was actually raised by penguins. I love it. Catwoman actually has 9 lives. I love it. I just love all that crazy, wacky stuff. And the visuals that he gives this movie, like that circus gang, just has this Tim Burton quality that just allows this movie to stand out. I think Danny DeVito's and his gross portrayal of Penguin is absolutely fantastic. Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, she should have won an Oscar for this movie. She's absolutely incredible in this movie. Michael Keaton is my favorite Batman. I just feel like he comes across very sincere in this role. Just, if there was this billionaire who did go out at night fighting crime, this is how weird and awkward that guy would be, and I just think Michael Keaton's great in the role. I like Christopher Walken in this movie. I love Michael Gore in this movie. The entire cast does a fantastic job. I love what Tim Burton brings to it, but this movie also has some bigger ideas that it's trying to explore. Like this idea on who's the real you. There's always a you that you show in public and a you that you keep to yourself. And you've got that in physical representation between Bruce Wayne and Batman, because Batman is the real him and Bruce Wayne is a mask. Same as Catwoman. Catwoman's the real Selena Kyle, while Selena Kyle's the mask. There's even a scene without a costume party, and those two are the only two not dressed up because that's the costume. You know, their normal appearance is their costume. You also got Penguin, who's acting like a victim in front of the TV, but then behind closed doors, he's this gross, vile pig. Same with Christopher Walken. Just everyone shows a certain side of themselves. And this movie's about a bunch of outcasts trying to find their place in this world through whatever means works best for them. And if that's not peak Tim Burton, then I don't know what is. Also, like, Penguin was about to blow up a bunch of the city with penguins with bombs on their back. Like, that's fantastic. I love this movie. It is so over the top and wacky, but it knows what it is, and it still has a great script that fully explores its characters. I love this movie, it's great. In third place, yeah, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, I'm fully aware of that. But it's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This is my favorite MCU movie. Now, to be fair, I have a very soft spot for this movie because I have good memories of it. But it's also very weird because the first time I saw this movie, I thought it was a bit messy. But the more times I watched it, I grew to love it more and more. This is just a director's vision fully on display, and as you can tell, that's the kind of filmmaking I like, and just what James Gunn brings to this movie visually, it's just unlike anything else. It is so unique. It's something only he could make. There's one scene at the end where Ego's coming back to his human self, and at first he's like this blue beam, and then he grows a skeleton, and then tissue, and then skin, and just seeing that all come together is just amazing. I love it. You also feel the emotional stakes of what's happening in the finale. Like the entire universe is in danger and you feel it. And then you got so much emotion, especially with the Londu stuff. This movie is filled with heart from beginning to end. It pushes each of these characters further, and at times they can come across as unlikable, but it's because they're hiding bigger insecurities. So because of that, they feel like real people. The soundtrack and the utilization of it throughout is top notch, especially, what's that one song? It's by Glenn Campbell, Thousand Nights, when Rocket Raccoon's in the forest fighting all those guys. That was just a terrific sequence. What else can I say about this movie? The action is fantastic. The cast all does a fantastic job. Kurt Russell is an excellent villain. This movie just does it all for me. It's action-packed, it's thrilling, it's intense, it's very emotional, it's filled with heart, it's got a unique vision, it's got lots of creativity behind it. It pushes these characters further. I think this movie just does everything right. Everything right. I love it. In second place, I'm kind of curious to see what people think my top two choices are at this point, because I feel like you could probably guess them. But in second place is The Dark Knight. Yes, The Dark Knight. I love this movie so very much. I know, hot take, very unpopular opinion, but I think this is a good, you know what? Not even good. A great movie. Please don't attack me in the comments down below. This movie is just perfection. It's so easy to watch a movie like this and trying to be, the controversial one and be like, this movie is overrated. But no, every time you watch this movie, it just proves it time and time again just how perfect it is. Christian Bale is great in this movie. I feel like his performance doesn't get talked about enough. Aaron Eckhart is great in this movie, and nobody talks about that. Michael Caine's really good. Morgan Freeman's really good. Did I miss anyone? How could I forget? Maggie Gyllenhaal is much better than Katie Holmes in this movie. Oh yeah, Heath Ledger's in this movie. I guess he's alright. But no, I'm just kidding. Heath Ledger's absolutely phenomenal in this movie. His performance as a Joker is just top tier. It's incredible. The action sequences and how Christopher Nolan brings them to life is fantastic. I love the music by James Newton Howard and Hans Zimmer here. It is an amazing score. And just, I don't even know how to talk about this movie in just a couple minutes because there's so much going on. And there's so much depth and nuance going on behind all the characters and what it means for him to be Batman on choosing to do what's good and order and chaos, and there's just so much here that I can't just talk about this movie in a few minutes discussing its themes like I can with other movies. But I just think it's a perfectly told story filled with bigger ideas, and the actual filmmaking behind it is just top tier. Like when the music's coming together and it's building tension to another moment and just everything's coming together, you just get goosebumps throughout so many sequences in this movie. The characters are all fully developed. There's emotion here. I love this movie. It is perfect. It is one of the greatest superhero movies ever. It's most people's favorite superhero movies, and for good reason. I love it so very much. But my favorite superhero movie of all time is, without any doubt, SpiderMan 2. I absolutely adore this movie. Now, just like the first movie, I do have a lot of nostalgia for this movie. But this movie doesn't just get better with age. It gets really better with age. I love everything about this movie. What Sam Raimi brings to this movie is like I said, he brings sincerity to it. These movies feel genuine. And there's so much emotion here Like this guy who wants to be a hero. He knows that's his responsibility, but he's not able to live the life he wants to live. And now him being a superhero feels like a burden. And he doesn't know how to balance his life out. He's got so many responsibilities, so much going on, and he just feels overwhelmed, and he doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore. And you see that. But then you also got moments where there's still danger going on, and he feels like he has to. You know, there's that scene where he runs into the fire, he saves a little kid, and after all that, he finds out someone else still died. And he starts to realize that he has to be Spider-Man. He has to make these sacrifices. And that's the lesson he learns. And it is the most emotionally moving stuff in any superhero movies. It really is. Because every bit of it feels genuine. And it's emotionally filled. That scene where he tells Aunt May what happened the night Uncle Ben died, it is genuinely heartbreaking. And to see this guy be knocked down over and over again, for him to get up at the end, it's just so satisfying to see. And then on top of that, you've got this terrific villain in Doc Ock, played so well by Alfred Molina. He doesn't feel like he's a bad guy. He feels like he's doing the right thing, but he's been manipulated. And I think Alfred Molina is just great as this villain, and the action between the two is just fantastic. Like, that entire train sequence is still to this day one of the most visually incredible superhero fight scenes. The final battle is fantastic, and just to see Doc Ock brought to life in this capacity, it's just great stuff. It really is. Kirsten Dunst is really great in this movie. James Franco's great in this movie. J.K. Simmons, I didn't even mention him while I was talking about the first Spider-Man movie, but my goodness, he is perfect in these movies. I love what Sam Raimi brings to this movie. I already said the sincerity and how genuine it is, but you can also tell that he brings some of his horror filmmaking to this movie. Like that hospital scene, there's not a drop of blood in it, but it's terrifying. And you can just tell that he's channeling his inner Evil Dead in that sequence. And it's just an amazing sequence. We don't get anything like that these days. You know, I can talk all and all about this movie for like hours. I think this movie is absolutely incredible. But the one last thing I'll say is, one of my favorite scenes in this entire movie is MJ finds out who he is. And when she finds out, it feels like a giant burden has been, you know, relieved. She finally found out. And it's like, it's really an incredible moment when she does. And they go and they're talking in a web, and Peter's like, this is why we can't be together. I'm Spider-Man, and you'll always be in danger if I'm Spider-Man. So then he lowers her down to be with John Jameson, and he's standing up above them as he's watching them hug, and MJ's looking at him, and he's about to swing off, but he stops, and he gives one last look at what he's giving up, and he accepts it. Oh my goodness, I'm getting emotional just talking about it. It is, oh my goodness, such a fantastic movie. It really is. I love this movie so very much. It is my favorite superhero movie ever, and probably, just being honest, forever will be. I love it. So what are your 10 favorite superhero movies? They better line up with mine, because mine is the objectively correct list. But let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin